A standard 2.5 kilowatt peak, which is 6 panels and 7 kilowatt hours of battery system. We have a starting price of around 1,500 Rand per month.
Hi Vincent, this is Aashish from the Lifesway. Just give a brief introduction about yourself and about your company and the brand.
So my name is Vincent Maposa. I'm the founder and CEO of Wetility. Started this business about 4 years ago. I have a background in the renewable energy space, and energy space particularly, having worked as a management consultant, a strategy manager, and also just have a deep passion for energy access, which is a big and pervasive problem across Africa and across Southern Africa, where electricity access in most countries is well below 50%. South Africa has a high electricity access rate. Personally, I enjoy a game of cricket here and there. I'm an avid cricket fan. I'm a big Man United fan as well. So when I'm not tackling energy problems, I'm usually found on the golf course or watching a game of cricket or supporting Manchester United.
So are you watching the World Cup?
Yes, I am watching the World Cup. So I'm obviously backing the African teams. I was a bit disappointed with some of the results yesterday. I was definitely backing Saudi Arabia to go through. I always love a good underdog story. But I think ultimately my prediction is a non-European team is probably going to win it, because I think the last 4 World Cup winners have been from Europe. So I'm hoping either an African or South American team wins it.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
So yeah, and then the question is, how is the solar energy sector spreading wings in South Africa?
So the solar energy sector, I think, has really kickstarted a revolution where in the past there was activity, and the activity was taking place in the renewable energy IPP space. And that was very commercial, very sort of industrial in terms of scale. And it was feeding directly into the national grid, with Eskom being the off-taker and the Department of Energy being the buyer. But what's happened over the years is that the cost of solar panels has come down quite a bit. So naturally, the price of systems has also decreased to the extent where even the residential customer, the commercial and industrial, the small and medium enterprise customer can now afford a solution. And for many, many years, there were deep concerns around what do you do with the excess energy, and it's not an always-on type of application. However, now with storage and battery storage becoming cheaper and cheaper, you can basically store the energy generated by the solar panels in your battery, which can then be dissipated as electricity at any point during the life cycle, or at least the usage period for a home, for a small business and the like. And I think it's also been accelerated by load shedding. So the uptake has been quite significant. So we started this business about 4 years ago, as I said, and we've been operational for about 3 years. And we're experiencing significant growth, lots of customer satisfaction with our product, and we didn't expect it to be where it is right now, even though we started the business with the intent to grow.
That's great. And how big is this energy gap in the market that Wetility, am I spelling it correctly, tends to fulfill?
Yeah. So if we look at just the issues that face our markets and our customers, so we have a lot of very frustrated electricity consumers who were used to uninterrupted power and were used to affordable power. So 2 things have happened in the South African market. The first, I think, which probably started a while back, was just the cost of electricity has become out of reach for a lot of consumers, and then we have load shedding. So this year, in the history of South Africa, is the year with the highest amount of load shedding ever experienced in the history of the South African electricity grid. So when you think about it, there are 16 million households across South Africa that are facing this problem. Some of them have no access to electricity whatsoever, and the ones that have access, bearing in mind that South Africa's electricity access rate is above 80%, are facing the worst period of interrupted power and power outages that they've ever faced. So that's a sizable market. And then off that market, there's an affordability issue, right? Where a lot of the homeowners actually can't afford to pay the upfront capex for a solar system. So we need to also address the affordability issue to ensure that as many of those 16 million households are actually served with the product. So it's a sizable market. It's a very big market. We estimate that penetration hasn't even reached 5% in the residential space, and maybe in the commercial and industrial space is probably still less than 5% as well. So it's still quite a long way to go for us to reach the levels of penetration and the levels of service that ensure that customers have uninterrupted power and they have low and low electricity prices.
Okay. So what's the overall offering in terms of installation and price value from Wetility perspective?
So for us, the most important thing is we have an end-to-end product suite that touches on hardware. So we have what we call the Wetility Pace, which is a hybrid battery storage system, which basically allows a home or a small business to remain powered up during load shedding in excess of 8 hours. It's a sleek, simple, easy to install hybrid battery storage system that fits well in the home and SMME space. Then we have WeX, which is our award-winning app, which basically allows a customer to monitor power consumption as well as to see how much money they're saving on a daily basis, and also has a value-added features such as remote management. So a customer can set their depth of discharge, or they can instruct us to manage their system remotely to make sure that whenever there is a power outage, the power is available in their batteries. The second thing as well is just to make sure that they're saving as much as possible by timing certain things, and this app allows for addition of other products such as smart geyser controls that allow for the homeowner to save more and more. And then the final and probably most fundamental product for us is financing. So we have a lease to own system called the Pace lease, which allows the homeowner to acquire a system from us under a rent to own model, where they pay a fixed amount every month, which escalates annually, but is a lot more affordable than if they paid the upfront capex. And our ultimate goal with it is to make sure that it's as affordable as possible, given where we are from an interest rate perspective, from an inflation perspective, as well as taking into account the escalations from an electricity price perspective. Ultimately, we want the total cost of ownership and the total cost of occupying a home to be as cheap as possible, and energy is a significant contributor to making it significantly expensive to occupy a home. So we want that to be lower and lower, and we want unlimited productivity and uptime, whether you're an SMME, whether you're a homeowner. We just want homes to remain powered up and be able to be productive.
That's great. And then if you enroll for this fixed price lease with the PACE program, does it also cover the battery replacement, and how long the battery lasts and how much it costs to replace?
Absolutely, it does. So most batteries and battery manufacturers have 10-year warranties and up to 6,000 cycles. There are a few other battery manufacturers that are now looking at 10,000 cycles. But let's assume that's the average, 6,000 cycles on a lithium-ion battery. So naturally, if you're going to lease a system out for 10 years and above, you need to factor that in, right? Because the batteries, and especially now with the levels and the intervals, or at least the frequency of load shedding, it's likely that you'll get to 6,000 cycles a lot faster. So we price that in, and we make sure that we replace the batteries when we start to see that they're degrading at a fast rate and they're not producing enough charge or producing enough power whenever they're required. That's a key and fundamental thing. The beauty of it is technology is evolving. Batteries as a technology, or at least as a contributor to the energy consumption dynamic, are becoming cheaper and cheaper. So you'll be adding more batteries at a lower marginal cost and a lower marginal price. So the homeowner ultimately benefits. And a key thing just to keep in mind as well is that the electric vehicle revolution is coming. Batteries, at least vehicle manufacturers, are also making vehicles that are V2X ready, which is vehicle to grid or vehicle to home ready. Right, so the Ford F-150 in the US is an example of that. So when you think about our ability to have solar panels on a roof, and the homeowner to have a battery backup system, as well as have a large battery in the electric vehicle, and as you would know, transit distances in urban areas are very short. So you might be sitting with a battery that can literally power up your home, and now you need to get into things like charging arbitrage and finding ways to make sure that the overall cost of your entire energy system, taking into account mobility, is as low as possible, and that you always remain powered up. So there's a lot to really think about when it comes to batteries, and for us, the ultimate view is the battery unlocks value in the space, and we keep a very keen focus on finding out what else is happening. Are there new technologies? Can we make this cheaper for the homeowner? Can we extend the life of the battery? How do we manage the cycles? And that's why the remote monitoring and management aspect of WeX is important.
That's great. And how the SA market responding to these initial introductions of these batteries and the package?
Yeah, so there are two sides to how it's responded, right? So it's push and pull. So load shedding will definitely, drive one aspect of that. But I think the reception has been fantastic, fantastic for all players in our space. But as a customer-centric organization, I think what pains us more is the number of people we haven't reached with our product. And we really have backed ourselves to develop products that make sense in the home and SMME space. So while the reception has been fantastic, we sit and we crack our heads at how quickly we need to get going in order to tackle, the entire problem. So all our, speaking about penetration, right? There's rapid growth, but penetration still sits under 5%, right? Not every home has a solar system. Not every home has a battery backup system. And part of our challenge and how we challenge ourselves and stay motivated as a business, in spite of the growth, is to make sure that we're becoming faster, better, and more efficient in order to deliver the product to the customer and to make sure that the customer gets the ultimate benefit that they expect, when even benefits that they don't expect. So how do we get ahead of the customer? How do we make sure that the customer, is really served and gets the best service?
And just a personal question now, what is the option for people living in apartments? Like I live in on the fourth floor of an apartment. Is there any option?
There are options, right? So one of them is having having the Pace, and we have the Pace Mini as well, a hybrid battery storage system installed within your apartment, and then convincing the body corporate, if you have to convince the body corporate that if they install panels across the areas that panels can be installed on, the average cost of electricity for the entire apartment complex becomes cheaper and cheaper. So that's a way that we try and influence and engage with body corporates on behalf of tenants, and with body corporates usually and trustees and all the other bodies that support homes. It's about convincing them and getting enough numbers to make this a thing that passes the vote. And once it passes the vote, the solutions are quite easy to install, very simple, right? So you just have your mini battery bank within each apartment. You can even have a centralized solution, which is what we've done for some of our clients, where it's a containerized solution that actually serves the entire complex. So all it really boils down to is what's happening in the solution space. So we have custom solutions and custom products for the apartment space, and we've installed a few of them. And how do you convince the body corporates, the trustees, the homeowners associations to adopt these? So I think over the next couple of months as well, you also see some exciting innovations from us in that space, things such as subscription models, where you tie this to the normal fiber contract, where you're not tied to a 20-year fiber contract, because tenancy in the apartment space is also quite variable. But how do you make sure that you provide unlimited power as well as unlimited connectivity, which are the two fundamental things that you need in any space, in any home, for you to remain productive.
So Vincent, how much it will cost me to actually install this thing into my home?
Yeah, so for a standard 2.5 kilowatt peak, which is 6 panels and 7 kilowatt hours of battery system, we have a starting price of around 1,500 Rand per month. And then for slightly bigger systems like a 5 kilowatt peak, which is 12 panels, and 14 kilowatt hours of batteries, which is 4 lithium ion batteries, you're looking at a price of around 2,500 per month. But each of the solutions is modular and can be scalable, and our target is to always be in the between 1,000 Rand and 1,000 and 2,000 Rand mark on that product. But we're also looking at introducing a subscription model, which will lower the cost of the price of the product quite significantly and allow homeowners to be able to make it basically makes it more affordable for the homeowner.
So people are also buying these inverters, although this technology, your technology, is much far advanced with a lot of happy integration and everything. Where so how do you match how much time it will take to get my money back in terms of getting an inverter versus getting a Pace Mini?
Yeah. So if you think about an inverter and batteries, right? You can get an inverter and you can get very old, inefficient gel batteries. And in my mind, that's a bottomless pit, because you're always buying batteries every second year or whatnot. But with the Pace, you're looking at least between 4 and 8 years for payback, depending on where you sit from a consumption perspective. Because when we calculate the payback for a system like ours, we need to take into account how much you're actually consuming power-wise. So that's a key thing. But 4 to 8 years is our standard. And we anticipate that as batteries become cheaper and cheaper, then that band sort of moves towards, call it, the 2 to 6 year kind of band. And I think the important thing is there are lots of products out there, and this is basically there's a gold rush in the market where everyone who has some view on what an inverter is playing in the space. It has to be sustainable. So the warranties that support the product are an important thing, and as a consumer you need to think about that deeply. If you're buying a product with a 1 year warranty and you're buying gel batteries, chances are you're back at the same shop 12 to 24 months later to buy the same thing. So then it becomes a bottomless pit. So in some ways you can forego the high capex and have eventual cumulative capex that's like quite significant. And we encourage homeowners to do their research. We encourage small business owners to do their research and pick the right product. And I think any product that gives you a payback or has a payback of between 4 and 8 years is quite decent.
That's nice. That because and then if you are using the gel batteries or the water batteries, the environment, or the lead batteries, the environment gets also corrected.
Yeah, the environment suffers, and we also care deeply about the environment. We care about customers in that environment as well, and the sustainability side of what we do has a lot to do with making sure that the entire system is sustainable.
That's right. And what do you aim for 2023 and the coming years for Wetility, and then any plans to go to rest of Africa market?
Absolutely. I think 2023 is going to be a very exciting year for us. There are a lot of things that we're doing in the product space, which we have become known for, right? Is we're known as innovators in our space, ones that take otherwise complex problems and forecast what the solution will be in future to serve a current and future need. So we're really doubling down on our efforts to simplify the product experience and make it as seamless and as painless as possible for the customer. And that involves looking at energy consumption within the home or SMME in totality, as opposed to just thinking about electricity or thinking about power. And then there are other things as well around the key things that matter to homeowners in their space, things like security, things like overall sustainability. Water is becoming a significant thing. So for us, 2023, we're going to continue growing under the same strategy. However, we're going to start looking at things that are close adjacencies that affect the homeowner and affect the total ownership or total cost of ownership of a home, and see how we can intervene in certain cases. Some of it might not be commercially yet or commercial activities, but ones that enhance the product experience for what we've already put in people's homes and what we intend to put in those homes. So 2023 is going to be a significant year of growth for us. We're also doing some very clever things in the financing space that allow faster adoption, more sustainable lending, and that one on its own is a product for us. So how do we make sure that we have the lowest weighted average cost of capital product? How do we make sure that our loans are sustainable? How do we make sure that despite everything that's going on in our external environment, our customers have uninterrupted power and have the lowest cost of electricity?
That's all the very best for 2023. And then who all are there in your team?
Yeah, forgot to mention the team. I introduced myself, but we have an amazing team. They say you build with generalists and you scale with specialists. So there's a good blend of skills now where we've brought in a lot of specialist skills. So we founded this business. There were 3 co-founders, myself, Sandeep, and Chifiwa. We brought in our chief product officer, Ikena, who's an accomplished engineer who has a very deep focus on product and making sure that our products are able to meet the demands of our customers. And then we brought in a great team that supports all those activities, like of Kenzani, our marketing manager. We brought in very skilled accountants to manage our leasing activities. We have great technicians, great engineers that are responsible for making sure that the product gets to the customer on time, is installed well, meets all the requirements legislatively and regulation-wise. Everything is certified. And we also have a great customer success team that's as invested as the homeowner, if not more invested, to make sure that they have a great product experience and that they really get the best out of our systems.
So, who is your technology partner behind the PACE instrumentation, then the installation? There are three parts to it: batteries, the instrument itself, and then the maintenance and the installation portion of it. So, who are your partners?
So, from an OEM's perspective, we have a long list of OEMs. Some of them Goodwe, some of them a couple of battery manufacturers: Freedom One, Hubble, Pylon Tech. And from a operation and maintenance perspective, we have built our own center of excellence internally. We outsource some of the activities just to ensure that we're contributing, to the external environment by creating jobs. But we use a lot of technology from third parties that we integrate and optimize for our own use. We have partnerships with the likes of Tracker and the smart geyser control space. So there's quite a lot that we're doing there.
That's great. And what are your hobbies other than the sports and cricket watching?
So I'm an avid reader, and I've moved to audiobooks because I don't have a lot of time to sit and page through books anymore. But I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. Sorry, I spend a lot of time as well traveling for business. So I travel quite extensively and end up, in very interesting places across the world. So that's also become a hobby of mine, just to discover new places. I also do a lot of outdoor stuff. I hike a lot. I'm very outdoorsy. When I still had time to exercise quite a bit, I used to exercise quite a lot. But I always enjoy a good walk or a good hike.
That's great. Which audiobook did you last read?
So I'm listening to one that I've shared with Kensani called Product-Led Growth. I was listening to Startup Nation over the weekend. I'm a big fan of Ray Dalio, so I listen to Principles quite often. So I always replay that. There are quite a lot. There are quite a lot of books. I also like listening to NPR's How We Made It by Guy Raz. So there's lots of entrepreneurial stories there. So I listen to that quite a bit.
So that's the podcast. NPR.
That's the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which other podcasts do you follow?
So Tech Central's one, the local one. A big fan of what Duncan MacLeod does in that space. They're probably the local ones. Trying to think of the others. I can't think of them off the top of my head. But a lot of them are also sports podcasts. So
that's nice.
It's an amazing body of work. I'm a big fan of just radical truth and transparency as a thing. And I think it leads to more sustainable growth over the long term than being very cagey about information, especially internally with people that you trust. So I'm a big fan of just his principles for work, principles for life, principles for building personal relationships, all that stuff. Big fan of that.
And this is the last question as to when you started co-founding, how did you as you were working in the corporate world, how did you that you are going to be an entrepreneur now?
So interestingly, I always knew I'd end up, being an entrepreneur, and more so, I became more convinced as I spent more time in the energy sector that it would be the energy space. So I think it was something that was just bound to happen. So if not then, it was going to happen now, or it was going to happen earlier, or whatever the case may be. So, and a lot of entrepreneurial ventures, and a lot of people don't want to say this, but the reality is opportunity meets you at the right time, and what happens for the first couple of years is luck, really, right? It's who you know, what networks you have built over the course of your career, certain decisions that you made, did you go left or go right? But there's a lot of luck and good fortune and blessings, if you want to go into that leads you down a particular path. But I always knew that this was what I wanted to do, so I've been very clear about it. And even as I mapped my career journey, I always chose challenges that would make me better suited for the environment that I'm currently in, which is, leading a startup and being a part of a team that's really doing amazing things. So it was bound to happen.
So any last comments for our subscribers who want to get into this technology?
I think the important thing about technology and being, a technologist by choice and thinking about it is technology has to be simple and it has to drive fast adoption. So I think for some of the viewers of your channel and the subscribers, the important thing is get in, fail fast, learn as hard as you can about what you need to learn about, but invest a lot of time in really understanding what your philosophy is when it comes to building products or building any technology. What's your architecture? How are you thinking about how sustainable your technology is going to be in the future? Do you have customers who are willing to try out your product? Because initially, right, when you don't have a brand and you don't have the reputation, people try out your product as a trial. So start engaging with people, start engaging with potential consumers of the product that you're going to develop or the technology you're going to develop in future, and gauge their appetite, and then get going, right? And get going as quickly and as efficiently as you can, and get the product out there. Let the product tell the story. Let the product be your validation, be your pivot point, and let the feedback from customers be what drives you. And I think that's the advice that I would give. But also, just enjoy your experience. Solar is growing, and find a way to get involved.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Aashish. Thank you for being a great interviewer.